This is a quick explainer video on how I compile maps for Team Fortress 2 with Hammer++. This process is exactly the same as for regular Hammer, but in the year of Luigi 2024, there's no real reason to be using the original Hammer. You should be using Hammer++. Link in the description for that, and anytime I say Hammer, just know that I mean Hammer++. So, first time you run Hammer and use this little button up here to compile, or press F9, you'll get this little pop-up here, which is sort of the training wheels mode. There's this button down here that says Expert, which sort of implies that everything you would normally want to do can be done with this window, and only the advanced options require the Expert mode. But that really isn't true, and it really has never been true for Team Fortress 2. There's several absolute bare minimum options for compiling maps that you want to share with other people that need the expert mode. So this is really only a training wheels compile option. So expert mode opens up this window here, which is a much more configurable version that I have to set up how I like it, and I would encourage you to set up how you like it. Instead of the 3 sections for BSP, Viz, and Rad, this has a list of options, and each of those options here has a command and parameters that you can define exactly what you want to do. So in the command box here, this one here, that's what it's going to do. If you click on this little CMD button, you have different options that you can set in there. So you've got the 3 compiling programs, and then you've got a few other things. You can run executables, so you can run something like proper through this as well. And then the parameters here is all the command line options that will be passed to whatever this is up here. So for VBSP, it just sends the game directory and the map directory so that it can know what to do. In my list, this runs top to bottom, so I start with VBSP, then I have 2 separate ones for VViz. I have a fast version and I have a regular version. So the fast one is the one that I use most often when I'm doing any kind of testing locally, and then VViz on regular settings is really only what I use for shipping for playtests or for final builds. And then I have 2 options for VRAD. I have a fast one and a final one. My fast one, here I've just set bounce lighting to 2 bounces, no extra, just gets rid of some super sampling that it does for light maps, so that just makes it go faster. So that's the really fast one with no frills. And then the final one that I use here, this has both, which is LDR and HDR lighting. It runs VRAD twice. Final fires a bunch of extra sunlight rays from the light environment, so that improves the sort of the overall quality of the outdoor lighting. I have a custom lights.rad, which I use to force some texture shadows on certain props. You can also define custom texture lights from these if you particularly want to do that. I know a few maps that have done this, but I don't think it's particularly common for people to use texture-based lights anymore. Then I have smooth set to 46. So VRAD by default will produce smooth lighting for any 2 brush faces that touch at an angle of 45 degrees or shallower. There are certain faces that do actually meet at 45 degrees that won't get smooth. I believe it's because of floating point precision issues. So I just, a while ago, I set my smoothing to 46, so now it will capture all angles that are supposedly 45 degrees. Not particularly necessary, but it fixed an issue that I was having one time, and I left it there because it's not doing any harm. Then I have these 3 options: static prop polys, texture shadows, and static prop lightings. And these are the things I think are bare minimum for Team Fortress 2 maps. If you are distributing a Team Fortress 2 map, I want to say in 2024, but really since launch, these 3 options have been sort of the bare minimum. So static prop polys calculates lighting per vertex for meshes instead of based on their origin. So sometimes a mesh can be embedded in a surface and it will be really dark, or the lighting origin of a prop can be outside of a shadow, whereas most of the prop is inside the shadow, and then the prop overall looks too dark. But static prop polys calculates light per vertex, so you get a nice shadow that will fall across the mesh if that's where the mesh happens to be. Texture shadows will allow VRAD to read the alpha of a material. So, for example, the chain link fences that I have down here, by default, VRAD will treat the chainlink section as a solid bit of geometry, but with using texture shadows, it'll recognize that the alpha of the chainlink section will allow most of the light to come through, so you won't get dark shadows from a prop that is mostly transparent. Static prop lighting compiles the entire visual mesh's geometry for the shadow rather than just the collision mesh. That's what it was traditionally using a long time ago, which is a very simplified version of the mesh, and actually some meshes, some props don't even have collision meshes, so in that case VRAD will use just sort of a shrink wrapped hull of that object, which can cause really dark splodges under things, particularly payload tracks for Team Fortress 2 don't have a collision mesh because they're on the ground. You don't want players running over them, but that means if you compile VRAD without static prop lighting, you'll end up with dark splodges around, or you'll have to turn the shadows off from that entirely, which won't darken the ground enough. After my VRAD options, I then have copy file, which is just moving the path, the new BSP to the right directory, and then game exe, which actually runs Team Fortress 2. Most of these options are just quality of life things. For example, no vid removes the video of the guy with the valve in the back of his head, no border removes the border, console opens the console. It's hijack and plus map that you really want. These two combined will allow Hammer to swap the map in the current version of TF2 that's running, rather than trying to open a new version of TF2, which obviously won't work. So these two commands are what you need for compiling over and over without having to close TF2 each time. I almost always leave these last two checked when I'm compiling normally, because usually you want to see what you're doing in game, but there are situations, for example, if I am just checking for leaks. I've finished sealing up an area, or so I think, and I want to know if it's leaked. I'll toggle everything off except for VBSP, because there's really no need to compile any of the other steps if you're just checking for leaks. And then conversely, a situation where I might not want any of the other options. If I've just done a regular compile and I've forgotten to open Steam, it'll fail at the last step. So it'll get all the way through VBSP, VViz, VRAD, it'll copy the file, and then I'll try to launch the game, and then it'll fail there. You can launch Steam, you can leave everything untoggled except for game exe, and just run that, and then it'll launch TF2 with all the regular things, instead of having to launch TF2 through Steam, as long as Steam is now open. You can add your own options into here by clicking the New button, and then you can pop in your command using one of these options. You can pop in your parameters here. Most of the parameters that I went through, you'll have to type in manually. There is a reference on the developer wiki. I will leave links to those references in the comments, so you can look up exactly what options are available for you. If you'd like to use my setup here, I put a link in the description, and once you have downloaded that, if you click edit up here, you can click import here and say there's one right here. So you can import that. I've just called it test for illustration purposes. It's a copy of this big list. So you can close that, and then in this list it will appear. So I have some other ones for using proper, and just one for run. I don't think I actually use this. I think I just use the big list. That's it. That's how I compile for TF2. There are some other tools such as CompilePal, which is really nice, but I only use it for packing custom assets into a map, because I find for running regular compiles, the hassle of opening up another program is just not worth it when Hammer has all the tools that I need. There is also Vide, which once upon a time was a fairly popular compiling tool, but I think everything that Vide could do has now been done better by CompilePal, and it's been made completely obsolete. There's no point using Vide when CompilePal exists. The other outdated tool that I think has become completely obsolete is PackRat. I used to use PackRat quite a lot for packing custom assets, but now CompilePal is around. That's just generally the better option for packing in custom assets. This video was a bit of an experiment. If you found this interesting or useful, please let me know in the comments below. I am interested in making more explainer or tutorial videos covering topics relating to Team Fortress 2 level design. If you have specific topics that you would like me to cover, please let me know. Thank you.